Okay, let's go through the February 27th meeting. Again, we talked about reporting, how it's got to be correct. Inventory-wise aside, it needs to be correct from the Department of Ag. Again, we don't want you guys to get fined or lose your license because of incorrect reporting. Also, from a customer standpoint, we need to make sure that they're informed with what they're doing. So, also, never use a product that isn't in the system. If you use a product that's not in the system, let me know ASAP. I'll do my best to get in the system right away, and then stop using the product until I let you know. Never say you used a product when you didn't. I know we get in a rhythm, especially when we were switching from contract blocks to Talon to easy blocks. You just get in a rhythm doing the same thing. In our industry, sometimes rhythms will hurt us, and that's one of them. So, non-target species, pretty self-explanatory. What a non-target species is, anything we're not targeting. Everything that we do, equipment, treatment methods are designed for a target species and designed to eliminate and reduce the risk of non-target exposure. Pets, children, squirrels, mice that eat ant bait, that's not technically a non-target exposure. We want to try to avoid that as much as possible. It's important to also know that non-target exposure is different than second-hand exposure. Second-hand exposure would be a mouse eats a bait, an owl eats a mouse. Well, what we targeted was correct. We targeted the mouse ate it, that was correct. And then the owl ate the mouse, that's second-hand. Does that make sense? If you got questions about that, let me know. Repellents versus non-repellents, pretty self-explanatory on what they are. Scenario when you would use one over the other. If ants are inside, you're going to want to use a non-repellent. That Termidor, that Tempered, that Phantom. Not Termidor. I lied. Do not use Termidor inside. But Tempered, Phantom, stuff like that, you're going to want to use that non-repellent. Now, if there are no ants inside, you're going to want to use a repellent to suspend the lambda star, the demand. Again, if they're inside, we don't want to repel them. We want to interact with the product. But if they're not inside, we want to repel them away. And what this does is this allows us to do that. Kind of also think that the faster acting, more potent repellent, the slower acting, less potent from a smell standpoint is going to be your non-repellents. Good reminder, rule of thumb anyway. Here's some baits. Again, ants 375A is a bait that functions like a granular. A granular that functions like a bait. We apply it like a granular, but it functions like a bait. It's always a good idea to make sure that, one, we wear gloves when we're using the bait. Two, it's easy to clean up. Three, we don't get any of our own oils on the bait and or the applicator or the surface that we're putting it on, because that will render it useless. That's why we wear the gloves. And then it's always good to rotate your baits as well. All right, we'll go through some ants. Thing at the bottom that you can't see is we don't want to bait for scouts, thus creating a food source for them to tell their friends about. We don't want to create an issue. So if they just saw one but we don't see any signs, we don't want to bait. We don't want to use a liquid application at that time. All right, and then we talked about the conference. We didn't have a meeting after, so if you have any questions, let me know.